Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagements, the Impact Room. My name is Dr. Fredrica Brooks Davis, and I serve as the Director of Constituent Relations and Director of Constituent Relations here in the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement. I am so excited to welcome our guest for this evening. This is our second episode, and that is in the person of Dean Sebrena Jackson. And so I am going to ask Dr. Jackson to come on and say hello to everyone. So, hello, Dean Jackson.
Hi, Dr. Brooks Davis. Thank you so much for having me, and thank you to those who've joined. I see some familiar names and some of my faculty and staff that are here to show some love and support. So thank you, everyone, for joining.
Definitely. And so I'd like to take this moment, if you don't mind, to those of you who are on the call. This is an opportunity for us to talk about real stories, to actually share where we are. And though we may have on the campus, we have our official titles. We just want to share information with persons and also show that we're human too, right? Sometimes people believe that we are above that, but we are actually human as well. And so what I'd like to do now is for our guests who have joined us, please either you can come off of mute at this time if you want, you can come on camera, or you can drop in the chat and share with us where you are joining us from. So if you, sure.
I am joining from Aiken, South Carolina. I'm a graduate of the Atlanta University School of Social Work.
No.
Last class of, let's see, the last, we were given a choice whether or not we wanted our degree to be Atlanta University or Clark Atlanta. And I chose tradition.
Okay.
So welcome, welcome. Thank you for being here. Thank you for having this. I'm looking forward to meeting you one day. And I'm Aiken, South Carolina.
All right, Aiken. I'm from
Thank
Florence.
you.
So, hey, South Carolina. Thank you for joining us. All right. And Ms. Brown?
Hello. Hi, I am Dr. Sheena Brown, and I am joining from the campus of Clark Atlanta University. I am a faculty member here supporting our great dean, Dean Jackson. I am also an alum. So I was here at Clark Atlanta University from 1989 to 1993. I'm a
Okay.
social worker as well, and I'm always looking and listening for the stories out there from great social workers like Dean Jackson. And so just really excited to support her, but also support this podcast. It sounds like a great opportunity for alumni to connect across the country.
Wonderful. Thank you for joining us, Dr. Brown. And I see Oscar Copeland there. Oscar Copeland, would you like to share? I see you're off of mute. All right, we have BB Calloway from the staff of the School of Social Work here to support Dean Jackson. Thank you for joining us. And let's see, Oscar Copeland. There we go. Uh-oh. All right, there you go. Okay, you're coming. All right. Well, anyway, I want to thank you all for joining us. I see one of our staff members is in the room, and that is in the person. Go ahead.
Hi, good evening, everyone. I am Natalie Parker, currently in Harkness Hall, a member of the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement. I am a two-time alum as well, class of 2012 and class of 2021 from counseling and from mass media. And so just excited to be on this call with fellow alum and just looking forward to hearing the knowledge and the wisdom and excited to connect with you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you for sharing, Ms. Parker. And she is the reason why you all have received all of the information here about the podcast. She is the person who helps us stay connected. And
Yes.
so was there anybody else, Mr. Copeland, before we move forward?
And you got a few in the chat
Oh,
too.
I see here. Thank you. So, Reverend Dr. Hempfield, this is your second week joining us. So, thank you for joining with us. We see that you're here, and let me check the chat for who I may have missed here inadvertently. All right, class of 2004. All right, and we have Dr. Franklin, CAU alum, class of 2020. So thank you all alum, because this is definitely excited to see that you're here. And tonight, we are celebrating with our School of Social Work that this is Social Work Month. And so Dean Jackson is here with us. We also have a conference that's coming up on Friday where we will be talking about the social determinants of health. And so, with that, we want to ensure that we share with you the importance of social work, its role within our community. And we also want to hear more about Dean Jackson's vision. So, I'm actually going to start by asking Dean Jackson, is there one thing about you and your journey you would like to share with us this evening?
Oh, that's a great question. There's so many things. One thing I think first I would say I'm a two-time alum as well, right? Class of 1995 with my MSW and 2005 with my PhD. And receiving my degrees from Clark Atlanta University, Whitney M Junior School of Social Work were those two degrees, two of the best decisions I could have made. And just so proud of that. And now super proud and humbled to serve as the dean of this amazing School of Social Work.
Awesome. So, can you share with us a little bit about your personal and professional journey and what led you to the field of social work?
I'm happy to. Thank you, Dr. Red, for joining us. Great to see your name. I have a call that's coming to you. I'll say, early on in my career, I thought I was going to be an occupational therapist. When I went to Tuskegee undergrad, I knew I wanted to help people, wanted to make a difference, didn't quite know much about social work, but found social work through some faculty members and haven't looked back in terms of that work. Bachelor's, master's, PhD in social work. And again, three great decisions for me in terms of where it's led me over my career. I've been practicing over 30 years. And that's surprising to me to even say now. It's like, wow, I'm that person that's talking about having been in the profession this long and have practiced, continue to practice. My research and scholarship now focuses on two lines of educational research. Primary areas is working with older foster youth and their access to college, and the secondary areas around online education and technology. And the goal in this next phase of my career is to merge those interests and to start to explore the experiences of foster youth with technology and online education. But again, I've had a wonderful career, just grateful from practice in health systems, child welfare practice, private practice. I'm a clinical social worker in Georgia and Alabama and now higher ed. But I've had a wonderful career in social work and continue to do things, right? And have experiences that I didn't know would be a part of my journey and could be a part of my journey with the degrees in social work. So I'm still inspired and excited about the profession.
That's awesome. So my aunt was a clinical social worker, and I saw from your bio you shared some similar things in your trajectory. So to all the social workers, if you're a social worker on tonight, drop it in the chat. And then for those of you all who are going to be watching it, the replay, we encourage you all to share with us your journey. But I salute you, social workers. I am a clinical psychologist, so I'm very clear on the mental health field and support the work that you all do. So with that being said, what inspired your commitment to serving individuals and families through this profession? And I know you talked about your respective area of interest, but what inspired that work?
I think my heart for service really comes as a result of my faith. I think born and raised in the church in South Georgia, rural South Georgia, giving. I saw my parents. My dad was a deacon in the church. My mom, usher and did all the things in church. And I saw them helping and giving. And while I didn't know the term social work then, I think the heart and passion to give and serve directly comes from my personal faith and belief in service and making a difference and helping those who may be having challenges or having experiences. And so I think that's the what birthed that interest in the profession. I think higher ed, I really just kind of stumbled upon higher ed and faculty position when I was fortunate enough to be a student in the doctoral program at CAU. It looks like Dr. Richard Lau just joined, and this was a perfect time for him to join because he gave me my first opportunity to teach. As a doctoral student, I had the opportunity to teach a policy class and a child abuse and neglect class, and I loved it. And I knew at some point I would come back to higher ed and would want to, find myself serving in this capacity as well. And so again, but my heart and passion, I see it as ministry. I still do, right? It's still while we navigate, how we show up. I always, I show up fully and wholly, and my spiritual life is an important part of who I am. And so that is since the beginning of my career has guided how I practice and why I practice as a social worker.
Awesome. Thank you for sharing. So March is Social Work Month. Ta-da! So in recognition of Social Work Month, how would you describe the evolving role of social workers in today's society? And right before you answer that question, let me say, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat.
Yeah. Well, I'll say great question and thank you. I'm excited about Social Work Month and that we have this opportunity for the community to learn more about who we are and what we do. Social workers are needed now just as much or even more, right, than when I started 30 years ago. Because again, it's the Department of Labor says to us that it's one of the fastest growing careers in the nation. Over the next several years, social workers are going to be needed. And part of that is because of the crisis that individuals and families are experiencing. Mental health challenges continue to soar, especially post-COVID, but I think even before COVID, we had people experiencing challenges. So because of mental health, the aging population continues to grow. There's a need for social workers in that area. And then I also think people are starting to figure out the knowledge and skills that social workers are learning in schools of social work is transferable to so many different disciplines, so many different settings. And so you have sports social work, one of the hottest and fastest growing areas of social work practice, because now athletes and those coaches and folks that are serving athletes realize that social workers have a skill set that would really make a difference for those individuals and their families. Corporate companies are hiring social workers, whether that's in employee assistance programs or training and development, other areas. Of course, child welfare and our traditional areas continue to grow as well. But social workers are finding themselves now in what we may consider non-traditional areas because of the knowledge and skills to work with people, to assess people, to understand human behavior. We're finding ourselves in a lot of different areas because people are valuing that knowledge and those skills that we bring.
Thank you for sharing that. And certainly, I love seeing your passion for the work that you're doing and the field of social work. So, can you share with us right now, what are some of the most pressing challenges you would say that you see in your work clinically? And then, as far as maybe even some of your faculty members are sharing, what would you say now? And certainly, if you are a social worker in the chat, feel free to drop that and we can share that as well. What are some of the pressing issues that our families are facing right now?
Thank you for saying that because I was going to invite the audience to also, I know we have some social workers who are doing great work who can also chime in with this. I'm reminded initially of a conversation I was just having with a colleague on yesterday. We were talking about this area of substance use and the area and the need for social workers to be engaged with this population. With all that we have access to. Whether it's opioids, whether it's now I'm concerned about marijuana and the increased use. When I'm smelling people smoking marijuana when I'm driving in at 8 o'clock in the morning, to me, that's a sign that something is happening, right, with that individual. Even though we say it's not addictive, I'm concerned about the folk that feel the need to smoke marijuana on their way to work. So substance use challenges I see as one of those areas that we need to continue to pay attention to. I've already mentioned mental health and all things. That's a really broad um, area and topic, but mental health continues to be one of those areas that we need to think about, and it cuts across every socioeconomic background. It cuts across race and ethnicity. People are having challenges, whether that's depression, anxiety, other types of challenges and disorders. And so that's an area where social work is growing. And of course, that health area, because I mentioned already the aging population and people are living longer and experiencing challenges and need the support of a social worker to help them navigate. But those are three that come to mind. But like I said, I think there's so many, and I'd love to hear from some of my colleagues, areas that they're seeing, that we think about the unhoused population. Unfortunately, it continues to grow, whether you're in rural Georgia or you're in the city of Atlanta. We're seeing more and more. Out in California, wherever you are, you're seeing more and more unhoused folk. And the question is, what's happening? What's going on with that population? What's happening in the system that's creating, these kinds of challenges where we're finding so many people who are struggling. They're struggling financially to move forward and to take care of themselves and their families. And so again, the list could go on and on and on, right? In terms of the topics and challenges where social workers are at the forefront, trying to make a difference in the lives of people.
And so to that point, what would you say now are some of the policy, if you are aware? What do you see now as emerging policy areas that social workers are focused on right now that may be different than, say, 30 years ago?
Wow. I think one of the first things that comes to mind is social workers are fighting to be considered as professionals by our federal government, right? Based upon some proposed legislation right now, there's a conversation around whether or not social workers would be defined as professionals so that our students would qualify for student loans or certain amounts of student loans, particularly graduate plus loans and that sort of thing. So at the forefront of what we're navigating, not before we get to our clients, as a profession, we're also having to think about and fight for our place in policy so that we can continue to attract and educate more social workers. And so that particular law is first and foremost. And so social workers are doing quite a bit of advocacy right now around that particular proposed legislation. And I'm hoping that we'll be able to push back on that. And social work we know we're professionals, but in terms of what that legislation is trying to suggest, by limiting access to financial assistance for our students, that's the policy and piece that's first and foremost in my mind right now. Of course, there are a number of other kinds of policies that are reducing services for populations that social workers are considering. When we think about Medicaid, healthcare coverage, that continues to be front and center for many social workers in terms of the policy changes that are happening in that space. People's access to food, all the insecurity that's around in our state and the nation, the reduction in the supports that are provided via our food stamp program or WIC programs, and just the reduction in those kinds of policies that impact the most vulnerable in our communities are things that social workers are watching. I hope we're going to raise up more of our students who will be interested in running for office or serving as lobbyists, so that we can continue to be at the forefront of advocating when it comes to policy. Because again, we talk about all the time, policy impacts everything that we do, whether you're in private practice or you're working as an administrator in an agency. Policy impacts our work. So those are things that come to mind. I see Dr. Franklin mentioned disaster recovery policies, because we're seeing more and more with all that's happening. I mean, we've gone from, I just thought just this week, right, from 20 degrees to 80 degrees. No, 80 degrees to 20 degrees back to 80, right? So just what's happening in our environment, we're having to really think about, and how the policies that are being passed will impact in our environment, particularly in those lower resource communities. Black and brown communities often are navigating. The other piece that comes to mind is policies around AI and the data centers and where those data centers will be placed. And whose community and what will be some of the side effects or implications for what's happening in the air, in the water. So policies that are that will govern or support or challenge some of these AI data centers. We know AI is here; it's not going anywhere. But how do we move forward ethically and support policies that are going to make sure our communities, particularly those that are most vulnerable, are taken care of? Is something that we also have to continue to think about. And how do we do these things ethically? And as Dr. Franklin said, thinking about the dignity and worth of the individuals and families that we serve, and making sure people have access, right? Because oftentimes as we're moving as fast as these things are moving, what kind of policies are being implemented to ensure that our families have access to Wi-Fi, have high-speed internet. I think about my rural community in South Georgia. Will they have access to AI and the tools and all the things? And will there be policies and funding to support those things?
Thank you for all of what you just shared, Dean Jackson. And I say that because everything you just mentioned references the social determinants of health, social factors and drivers, as some are calling it, as we are preparing for our conference on Friday. And it is so very important here at Clark Atlanta University that we teach our students about the importance of understanding environment, understanding health, understanding policies. Every major and discipline that we have here on our university campus is impacted by just what you said. But I don't think until you work in the field do you have an appreciation for it, right? You graduate, you are here, you have this degree, but now what I'm going to do with it. And to our alum, many of our alum are working in the field. I too am an alum from the psychology department here and have worked in the mental health field for 30 plus years. So to your point, we see what the challenges are and how we need to address policy and how we need to make it applicable that families and our community understand that. And so, one, I want to jump in here to say to Mr. Copeland, we want to thank you for your service. And we did see that you came off mute, but we weren't able to hear you. But I do want to highlight that you were trying. So you are a retired LCSW and you are representing as well Atlanta University 1978. So thank you I want to make sure I acknowledge you as you place your information there in the chat. So as we talk about policy, as we talk about what are some of the areas where we see the changes and shift in social work, let's now bring it home to all of us here at Clark Atlanta University. So as the Dean of the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work, what is your vision for the school's future?
Well, thank you for that question. And it's wonderful to connect with you, Mr. Copeland. Thank you for joining and thank you for sharing. It's so special to one of the highlights of my 8 months, right? I started August 1st, but one of the highlights there are many, but one of the highlights I'm loving is connecting with our amazing alum. And so every opportunity to say hello and to meet them is so special to me. So thank you for joining tonight. I think for me, I'm reminded of just the legacy that we have as a school, the tremendous impact that this school has had since 1920, right? We're 100 plus years old. And so I have carefully and continue to carefully think about, what will the future look like? I'm spending intentionally this first academic year really taking a look at the school, assessing the school, having individual conversations with faculty and staff, and having conversations with students and having conversations with alum. I'm doing that intentionally before rolling out any type of strategic initiative, any type of full vision, right? As a social worker, assessment is key, right, to who we are. Before we start saying we're going to do A, B, C, D, E, we need to know what's happening in that environment. So I know we have an amazing history. What I want to know and what I'm learning right now is where are we? And I'm learning that we're in a great place as a school, but we're as a faculty, right? As a faculty, as a staff, we're going to determine together where we're going to go. We know it's going to be wonderful. We know it's going to be exciting. I imagine as we're talking about and what we're starting to see now, even in my 8 months, we're starting to do more international work. Dr. Franklin is on. She just came back from St. Croix, taking a group of students for our first short-term study abroad. And so connecting our students to international global experiences, I believe, is a part of a strong future for our School of Social Work. Another area is around technology. I believe we need to be leaders, not just consumers of information, but we need to be producing the knowledge and sharing that out. And so this area of technology, I see the school continuing to lead in that area. We're doing a lot around data analytics, and we even just launched a minor in data analytics, and it'll be open to students across the university, but social work faculty are leading that effort. So I see this area of technology, data analytics being an area that we're going to continue to focus on and move. And we won't move though from our core, the core of who we are, which is clinical social work. And so Dr. Brown and others have created certificates, behavioral health, trauma-informed certificate. So we'll continue to expand those kinds of offerings. We're going to launch our continuing education initiatives, because we know nationally we have an audience that needs to be developed, needs to be trained. And we believe they want to be trained and developed by our faculty and our alum from the Whitney M Young Junior School of Social Work because of our uniqueness. And so, again, there are a lot of wonderful things ahead, but in terms of carving out and deciding what that vision statement will be, I'm going to do that in collaboration with our community. And I'm hopeful that this next academic year we'll spend some time talking about that. But I'm excited about the things that are already bubbling up in terms of the things that our faculty members are excited about and the work that they're doing to move the school to the next level. You know, as I talked to the former dean, you know, one of the things she talked about is you know, Dr. Jackson, I need you to take it to the next level. And so I think that's my responsibility, standing on the shoulders of giants like Dr. Lyle and the late Dorcas Bowles and others who've led our school, Whitney M Young Jr., who've led our school. It's my responsibility to help take it to the next level so that our students are equipped and prepared to serve, and our faculty are nationally and internationally renowned in their respective areas. And so, again, I'm excited about it. I think our future is bright. It's in spite of the challenges, in spite of the things, our future is bright in the School of Social Work at Clark Atlanta University.
Well, I'm excited for the School of Social Work already, just with your enthusiasm and the things that you have already discussed, which definitely tells us that you're in step with where we are as a culture and also as the community. So now I have a question. So let's say, because I know you all are going to share this on your social media platform later, let's say a student, or it could be a professional who's looking at shifting a career. Always, I have a cousin back home. She now wants to be a social worker, right? And so she's in her 50s, but she's like, I always wanted to do this, but my family was forcing me to go into engineering. So I want to now pursue a career in social work. So let's say someone is watching this podcast later on and they say, I want to pursue a degree in social work. Why should that person pursue this degree at Clark Atlanta University?
Oh, that's a great question. And I think social work, and specifically at Clark Atlanta University, is a great place for those non-traditional folk, right? Like you just described your cousin. And tell her we have a great program. She needs to reach out to us to talk to our faculty, or to talk to me about the opportunity. I think what's unique about us is just where we've been historically. We were the first school of social work in the nation to educate African Americans. No one could ever take that away. So our focus has been and always is on our community and preparing our community. I think the other piece that I think about is we're the first school of social work in the state of Georgia to receive CSWE accreditation. So the standard of excellence and quality has been a part of who we have been since 1928 in terms of accreditation. So if a person is looking for not a brand new program, right, but a program with history, with amazing alum like the ones that are here that are all over the world doing and leading, then CAU Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work is the place for them. I think they'll find a community of faculty members that are knowledgeable and skilled in their respective areas. But I think beyond that, because I asked faculty not long ago, what's our value proposition, right? What is it that makes us special and unique? And our faculty started talking about the extra things that we do, right? There may be other schools around, there may be other folk with degrees and research areas, but there's some other things that our faculty and our staff are doing that I consider those above and beyond things, right? I don't assume that every school cares about their students. Our faculty and staff, I've seen it. They go a bit above and beyond to support our students. They care about the success of our students. And it's not just work for them, it really is mission. Our individual faculty and staff are mission driven. When I see Miss Bassett stay to the office to 7 o'clock at night, not because she has to, but she's committed to getting the work done. She's committed to having conversations with students. I don't know if students would find a Miss Bassett at another program that would be willing to walk them through the way that Ms. Bassett walks our students through systems and challenges and just listens to them. And it's evident to me that students appreciate that because I see them stopping by. I see them having conversations with faculty and having conversations with staff. And so I think those are just a few things. Again, they're going to get the quality education. We're accredited. We've been accredited a long time. They're going to get that knowledge and training, but it's these additional things, just that legacy kind of stuff that I believe prospective students would receive from us that they may not get in other places. And so, again, I think it's a great time to be in our School of Social Work at Clark Atlanta University. Just great things are happening on campus and within the school. And so I think our students are ready to compete at every level, whether that's the bachelor's, master's, or PhD. Once they leave us, they're ready. They're ready for their career. They're ready for what's next because of what's been poured into them, not just in the classroom, but these experiential learning opportunities, research opportunities, and other things. And I'll stop because I can keep going in terms of why, what's special about us. And I just encourage students to come by, right? We'll schedule a visit. We'll schedule a phone call, schedule a meeting with me or Miss Bassett or Dr. Warner or our other program directors and have a conversation, meet some students to kind of get a feel for that. And I think that's why we continue to attract students from all over the country, not just the Metro Atlanta area. People come from all over the country because they want to be in Atlanta and they want to be at CAU. So I'll stop there.
No, thank you. So tell me and tell us, as far as your programs are concerned, are they all here based in Atlanta? Do you have any online programs?
Great question. So our bachelor's program right now is in person only. Our MSW program, we have our advanced standing program is now, and the advanced standing is for those folk who have a bachelor's degree in social work. We have the on-ground or campus program, and we're launching the online version of that program. And we're currently working on, and we've completed the paperwork, and it's now going through the university process to launch our traditional 2-year program. And that's for folk who do not have a bachelor's degree in social work. It may be psychology or criminal justice, and they know that they want to do social work now, then they would be admitted into our traditional program. And that program will be available soon online as well. Because we've heard from so many who want the CAU experience, but they can't move their families, right? They cannot come to Atlanta, but we know that this quality education they can receive even in a virtual format. So we're almost there that we'll have the MSW, both options fully online. Ph.D. is right now continuing to be a traditional in-person program, but the classes are offered in the evenings. Many of our doctoral students work full-time jobs. They come to class in the evening. And so again, there's some flexibility there. While it may not be fully virtual, there's some flexibility in terms of the times of classes.
Thank you for sharing that information. And then also, while I'm still talking about our School of Social Work here at Clark Atlanta University and faculty members who are online with us, please chime in the chat or feel free to raise your hand and come off mute so you can share as well. I'm actually interested in terms of our specific program. what, if anything, would you say we're teaching? What's the specializations of our faculty members that someone who's listening may be interested in, let's say, teenage pregnancy? I'm just throwing that out. Where would you say the majority of our faculty, their research interests lie?
Yeah, and I'm going to get some help from my faculty because they're
Okay.
here and they're doing the work. So, Dr. Brown, will you share just a little bit about your work and maybe a couple of colleagues, and then I'll ask Dr. Franklin to share as well.
Well, and really to answer your question, I think it varies. I think many of my colleagues, as we've had practice experience in certain areas, and we bring that into the academy and into our research and our interests and our scholarship. So for me, my background, my clinical background, my practice background has been behavioral health, and that's my practice specialty even within academia. And within behavioral health, which is broad, it's mental health and it's substance use.
That's right.
And as Dean Jackson mentioned earlier in the call, that is a growing area. Social workers have always worked in addictions. Addiction has just changed. It changes with the political flow. Our current administration is envisioning recovery in a different way than previous administrations, but it doesn't stop the work. So some of what I'm doing right now, so I am the director of a center here at the Whitney M. Young Junior School of Social Work. It's called the HBCU Center for Excellence in Behavioral Health. So we support graduate students who are interested in going into behavioral health by providing a stipend, but also training. And they get the word out to undergraduate students about different pathways to get to behavioral health. So social work is only one of them. One of the things that we as social workers are very we're used to doing this. We're trained to do this, and that is to work collaboratively with other disciplines. And so we are working with the counselors, counseling education, psychology, psychiatry. So medical students are a part of our project, and also nursing, because nurses also go into psychiatric nursing. And so that's something I'm really excited about doing here, as well as thinking about integrating behavioral health into our medical care. Because in some of these areas where there are low resources, like rural communities, they don't have the option to have a lot of specialties. And unfortunately, mental health is considered a specialty in some areas. And if we can bring behavioral health clinicians into primary care offices or family medicine doctor's office in some of the rural communities or outlying communities, then people can get access to care, even if it's brief interventions. So that's some of what the faculty is doing here. So I have many colleagues who are also very skilled in behavioral health, but some of my other colleagues are doing great things in policy and community-based interventions and things like that as well.
That's awesome. And so thank you for sharing that information. And I'm sure persons who will watch the replay, as well as some who are on the call tonight and may not be aware, are excited. And that's really the purpose of this, the impact room, right? Showing that we are making impact on campus, beyond campus, and all of the above. So that's exciting. And thank you, Dr. Brown, for sharing that information. I would right here. And so Dr. VP Frances Williams will be one of our guests on Friday during our conference here on campus. And she, for those who do not know, she is the Vice President over Research and Sponsorship and sponsors programs. And one of the things we talked about just yesterday is she attended a conference on Monday. So I'm going to say to Dr. Franklin, there are some resources available for disaster, right? So Dr. Brown and Dr. Franklin and other members, Dean Jackson, you may want to connect with Vice President Williams because funding is out there and they're looking at mental health. And so if you know that there's someone in social work that's interested, I would encourage you all to connect there. And then we know we have alum who are working in this area. And so part of the work we're trying to do here in alumni relations, and specifically with our affiliate groups, is reach our alum across the country who are doing work in industry to connect with our faculty and staff so we can partner together and leverage our resources and do as we know as alum, find a way to make one and culture for service. And so that's what this is all about. So thank you for sharing that information. If you have any questions, those who are here in the room, feel free to drop them in the chat. We're going to wind up our time here with Dr. Jackson, as we don't want to hold everyone. We appreciate you all for joining us for our second episode of the Impact Room. This has been great and exciting. Last week for our episode, we had Gloria Bigelow, who will be with us on Friday, and she is an AU Center sister who is a writer, producer, actor, and has currently a show that's in process with CBS, but has over 70 episodes. And so she talked with us about being a professional, living bi-coastal, but also serving as a caregiver. So like I said, this is the Impact Room where we're real stories. And so I also, to that point, want to thank Dean Jackson for joining us when she could have been someplace different. And I'm aware of that. And so we appreciate her for sharing with us. So as we bring this to a close, Dean Jackson, what advice might you give students or young professionals who are either considering a career in social work or perhaps they are young professionals? Let me ask it a different way. Here comes the psychologist in me. What would you tell your former self?
Great question. Great question. I like both. I like both versions. I think I would tell my former self to follow the path, right? To do exactly what I did in terms of each degree and moving forward. I think I would also tell my former self though to take advantage of more opportunities. Again, first generation college grad, rural South Georgia, not a whole lot of exposure. I was a little nervous and timid about trying new things that were outside of the box. I didn't do study abroad like Dr. Franklin is doing, or I didn't take advantage of when a professor said call or let's have lunch. I didn't do those things. So I would say to Sebrena, young Sebrena, to take advantage of all those opportunities, right? Not just in the classroom, but to spend more time focusing on those opportunities that are outside of the classroom that will help her to develop both personally and professionally. And so one of the things I want to see this generation of young social workers coming through, again, they're going to get the knowledge and the skills that they need in the classroom. That's happening. But it's these additional opportunities, getting involved in clubs and organizations, coming to conferences like you're going to offer on Friday, participating in these kinds of events so they get to meet alum. You never know in terms of relationships and connections where they're going to take you. And so I would say to this current generation and young generation is to build connections and relationships. The world is small. It's smaller than we realize. And with our alum are connected to people all over the world. And so I would say be more intentional about expanding, even though they tend to be overwhelmed and stressed and all the things because of the coursework, to find out how to make time for some extra things like this and opportunities to grow and expose themselves to other things, because Clark Atlanta is offering so many cool, wonderful things to our students. And I don't know, because of their youth, if they really understand how important those and impactful those opportunities will be and can be for them. And so it's just continue to have those conversations and gently pushing, right? We're gently pushing and pulling some to like, let's go, let's do this. Come and participate in this, come to this workshop, come to this training, meet this alum, meet this faculty member, send that email, show up professionally. We're having those kinds of conversations because we know, there are thousands of graduates around the country getting BSWs, MSWs, right? Not as many getting PhDs, but there are a lot getting BSWs and MSWs. And we're having to say to our students, what's going to make you unique,
That's
right?
right.
We know the degree from Whitney M Young Junior School of Social Work is one of those things, but what are the other things that are going to help you show up when you go into Dr. Red's interview and you're meeting and you're showing up with Dr. Red at her office? What is going to be different? I know she's going to give that resume a look because it has Whitney M Young Junior School of Social Work on it. But when you show up after that, what else is she going to see? What else is she going to hear? That's going to help her choose that student over a student from another place. And it's these experiential learning extra things that I want to see our students doing more. And I want to create more opportunities like that for our students, so that they're ready, that they're ready, and it doesn't take them as long, right, to get to that place of just massive success. So I think that's what I would share. Anybody else would drop anything in the chat that you would share with your younger self as well? I
That's
think
right. What would you tell your younger self? Or you can come off camera, come off mute if you'd like. What would you tell your younger self? What advice would you give to someone watching this replay or to some of our current social work students, undergraduate students? What might you share? Okay.
I agree with Dean Jackson in terms of going out of your comfort zone. When I came out of the School of Social Work in '90, I took a postmaster's fellowship at Yale School of Medicine, and it was only for 1 year. I think, honestly, I went because it was Yale. But when I got there, all of the different disciplines, when we met every Friday to discuss cases with National Institute of Mental Health, I learned so much in that 1 year. Also learned that I didn't want to do private practice. But it was a wealth, it was just jumping out of your comfort zone. So I totally agree with you, Dean Jackson.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I see Dr. Brown said, do it afraid.
Mhm.
Um, Imagine the impossible. The sky is not the limit. I love that,
Mhm.
Dr. Red. And then Dr. Franklin said, be brave and don't stop believing in your dreams. Those are awesome. I love
They
that.
really are. They really, really are. And I would say, I'm a 19, we call ourselves the Olympic class of
Ah,
Clark Atlanta University. I graduated in 1996. And I would say one of the things that Clark Atlanta, regardless of our major, our discipline, it really teaches us to know who we are, right? And to actually engage and get in community. But to your point, networking. And the key is networking. And so, for those who are on the call, who may watch the replay, certainly want to share with you that on Friday, Dean Jackson is going to come back with us and share some words. But we also have several different panelists who will be with us. And so, we encourage you to connect with us. And I'm just going to share here real quick information about it so that you're able to see. We have our facilitators and panelists. Many are current faculty members or staff and alum. And so we have Ms. Leona Davenport. She is currently the president and CEO of the Atlanta Business League here in Atlanta. She is an alum of our School of Business. We have Gloria Bigelow, who I mentioned before. We have our own Dr. Chaudhry, who's over our Center for Cancer Research and Therapeutic Development. There's our Dean Jackson. We also have Attorney Lottie, who is over the director over dual engineering. So she's going to be talking to us about sustainability and the environment, what Dean Jackson just mentioned the other day. And so when we talk about social determinants of health, it's all of these factors which reaches our current community here on campus and our schools. We also have an alum, Akoso Moore. So she graduated from Clark Atlanta, and she was a math teacher who transitioned into genealogy. She is one of the genealogists for Finding Your Roots with that is with Henry Louis Gates Jr. And then we have A. Bernard Young, alumnus Young. He's a principal down in Macon. And so education. So we're going to be talking about education, social work, health. We're going to talk about let's see, we'll be talking about sustainability. We'll be talking about business. We're going to be talking about entertainment. And then we have Dr. Williams, who is out for research and sponsorship, who's going to talk about our sponsored programs and how we all can collaborate. So that is going to be here in T. Cole in the boardroom. That's the Thomas Cole the boardroom. I've placed the registration link in the chat. We do have, for those of you who are not here in the area, I know some are in South Carolina and other places, virtual options. So feel free to click on the link there, and we'd love to see you and share it on your social media. And so let me see if we have any questions before we have closing remarks from Dean Jackson. Any questions? Well, there being none, Dean Jackson, is there anything in closing that you would like to share? I'll give you the final word. And again, just want to thank everyone for joining us this evening for our second episode of the Impact Room. And we will be back in a couple of weeks with some of our facilitators who will be with us on Friday. So Dean Jackson, I'll turn it over to you.
And
Oh,
before
I'm sorry,
she
we have
would
a
like,
raised hand. I
yes,
see
yes.
that there. Thank you. Dr. Red?
Thank you so much, and I apologize for not being on camera this evening. But Dean Jackson, thank you for stepping into the helm and being an alum of 97 and 2012. I appreciate you being here. And so my question really comes in about how can we support you in your leadership role, support the Whitney M. Young Jr. School of Social Work, the students, the community at large. How can we be of service to you?
Thank you so much, Dr. Red, for that question. There are a number of things that you can do and others can do to support the school. I think first and foremost is continue to do what you do, right? You're sharing with folk that you are a graduate and continuing to move forward and continue to enhance the legacy of the school. The other thing that you're doing and others are continuing to do is to give our students opportunities at your agencies for practicum placement and job opportunities. You're hiring our graduates. We need you to continue to do that as well. The other thing that will be helpful is to continue to give. We're so appreciative of all that you do financially for us. And so continue to give to the school would make a difference. I mentioned already, we're wanting to expand opportunities for our students to do global experiences. We have a lot of first-gen students from under-resourced families. And so funding to provide those kinds of experiential learning opportunities for our students would be really helpful. Funding to help support tuition and those fees would be helpful in terms of scholarships for our students as well. We're also looking to get alumni a little bit more engaged. I want to form a couple of boards this upcoming academic year. And so to have you as thought partners on a couple of those alumni boards that we're looking to form would also be very helpful to us as well. And I'm open to ideas and thoughts that you have about things that you are seeing in the field that we need to do to get our students prepared. We formed a practicum advisory board so that we can also continue to stay abreast of changes in the field so that we're preparing our students to get ready for practice. And so those are ways that I think about if there are funding opportunities that you see, whether they're federal, state contracts that you see our faculty can be engaged with you and your agency with research or evaluation. Think about us in that way as well. But again, just continue to show your love in those ways. It would be really helpful and continues to be helpful to the school. So thank you for that question. And I'll actually have Advancement actually created a link for social work, and most people don't know that we have our own page, giving page. So I'll drop that in the chat while we hear from Mr. Copeland as well.
Uh-oh, Mr. Copeland, we can't hear you, unfortunately. You're not on mute, but for some reason, I don't know if the computer's not connected. Let's see. Can you turn off your mic and then turn it back on? Let's see if that'll help. Okay, it's off now. Let's see. If you turn it back on, let's see if we can hear you.
And if that doesn't work, Mr. Copeland, if you'll send me
In the
a
chat.
chat, put
Mhm.
your phone number, I'll give you a call so we can still chat tonight.
Uh-oh, say something, Alumnus Copeland. He's working on it.
Mm-hmm.
No, we don't hear it. I'm so sorry because you've been trying. But if you would, Dean Jackson mentioned, would you please put your number in? You can direct message her in the chat. And she would
And I'm
be
going to put my
happy.
cell in there as well. I'll put my cell in the chat. Maybe that's easier. I'll put my cell here. So you're welcome to call me after the call.
Y'all better come on to Clark Atlanta University School of Social Work where that dean is dropping that cell phone in the chat in her first 8 months, honey. You better go on and get in here now, because after a year, she gonna change her number.
Absolutely not.
No,
You know
I
what?
am teasing.
It goes back to one of those things that makes us different, right?
That's right.
What makes us different is access.
That's right.
You know, the open door. I want students to be able to talk to me. I want faculty and staff to be able to talk to me. I'm approachable, and you can you have access, and you don't have to wait for the email and all those things. That's who I am. That's and I want our students to know that. And it's rare, right? Most students don't even, I share my number all the time. Rarely does a student shoot a message, but when they do, they need it and they share. And so you're right. You don't go many places where the dean gives you their cell, and that's my personal cell. That's not my CAU cell. That's my personal cell. But I want to talk. I want to talk to our alum. I want to talk to our students and engage with our faculty and staff. And so that's who I am.
That is awesome. I want to thank you, Dean Jackson, for joining us. It has been such a pleasure. I look forward to connecting with you on Friday. I'm excited for the School of Social Work and what will happen under your leadership and that of the faculty, not only who's on this call, because I know our school has been busy offering programs for Social Work Month. I do want to encourage those of you who will join and see the replay. Please follow our Office of Alumni Relations social media pages on Facebook as well as on Instagram, also School of Social Work. We want you to connect and learn more about what they're doing this month. I know they have a program I heard today on Monday coming, if I'm not mistaken, dealing with men and mental health. So we want to make sure you're aware of those programs and offerings. And then I would say that Dean Jackson volunteered in our first conversation to join me and our affiliate groups on the road. So South Carolina, we have South Carolina here. We'll be doing something in the Carolinas soon. So be on the lookout for that. And she is going to join us on the road. We are excited about that. That's right, Dr. Franklin. Lift up your dean. I love it. So again, I want to thank School of Social Work for showing up and for being boots on the ground with us as we are building out this impact room. I want to thank Ms. Natalie Parker from the Office of Alumni Relations and Engagement for joining us. Certainly our leader is Vice President Lori Sadler, and then my colleagues in the office, Ms. Sunny Hill, who provides our administrative support, and then Mr. Jason Etheridge, who provides programs here locally as the Assistant Director for Programs. So again, thank you. If by chance to all of the alum, if you are not getting Amplify or our Panther Posts, we need you to send an email to alumni@cau.edu so we can make sure that you get connected. So thank you all for joining us and take care. If you're still at your office like we are, get home safe. If you're already at home, have a blessed evening. Thanks, Dean Jackson, and to all of you. See you next time.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brooks Davis. Take care,
You're
everybody.
welcome. Take care.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.